How interesting. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Sorry for the delay. Had a couple things you had to work out there real quick. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Let's get started. And let's start with the concept of the playing game. We'll get into the actual games a little bit later, but the concept of the play-in, and I've been very consistent about this. I've said the same thing about the NFL playoffs. Sometimes, and really not even sometimes, when it comes to professional sports, the idea of inclusion for the most part ends up hurting, not helping. Think about this. The NFL playoffs, I've said, going to 7 seeds, unnecessary. You need to feel like there's a good team who doesn't quite make it. Having a team who's just not quite there yet. When everybody makes it, look at the result of the majority of the 7 seed games in the NFL. Besides exactly Green Bay Dallas from a couple years ago, the 7 seed has lost every single playoff game they've been a part of. They do not need to be included in the playoffs. This is not this is professional sports. This is not kids playing. This is not young men playing. These are adults making millions of dollars who are professional athletes. We don't need to keep including more and more of them for the sake of, oh, we want more teams to feel like they have a chance. Because here's the reality of what the plan has actually done. The plan has actually just made more of the regular season even less fun to watch, even more meaningless. The last week of the regular season, if you're a team like the Golden State Warriors, who have 37 wins, a team like that has no business being in the playoffs, and it's like, oh, we can actually cruise control the last week of the season because we're not even going to be able to improve our seeding. So, as a 37 win, not even a 500 team, we can essentially take the last week of the regular season off because we're stuck as the 10 seed. There's a gap between us and the 11 seed because it's basically a gap between them and the majority of the tanking teams. And so they are not taking the end of the regular season seriously. They're resting guys, quote unquote, to get ready for the playoffs. And the plan is so meaningful. Steph Curry's on a minutes restriction. Look, the plan has had about two moments. And really, I'm just going to go to one. The game between the Warriors and the Lakers from a couple years ago, where it was LeBron and Steph, and it was kind of like this one shining moment of, wow, look at these guys. LeBron hits the shot. That was its one moment. Besides that, while these games have been, for the most part, competitive, it's because these are teams that are close to each other. They're obviously the 9-10 seed matchups, 7-8 seed matchups, but they're not close enough in terms of being competitive for the actual playoffs in the postseason. Last night, you get, again, Charlotte, Charlotte, Miami, very fun game. I watched all of it. Those two teams, neither of them are going to make really realistically any noise in the playoffs and are probably going to be swept by Detroit if they end up getting that 8 seed. It is unnecessary to keep including more and more teams, because when it comes to the playoffs, when you want the best of the best, you don't keep including more. You keep it to the top 8 teams and you leave it there. To continue to add more teams in, and I get it, they're doing it for revenue. Why is a team like the Golden State Warriors, who have 37 wins, why are we giving them a chance to quote unquote make the playoffs? This is a team that has been a dynasty. Steph has played in multiple finals, Draymond multiple finals. Why are we worried about this year when they clearly were not good enough to get them into the postseason? And again, teams, the last week of the regular season, what was there to be excited about? There were a couple teams who were finishing off seeding, locking themselves into a 2 seed, a 3 seed, but who was actually playing for something meaningful? And if you were a team, again, and I take great offense when it comes to the Warriors particularly, why is a 37-win team, why are they resting guys? Why are they setting up quote-unquote potential playoffs? Like, you do not need more inclusion when it comes to the play-in and when it comes to the playoffs. You need to have some of this stuff matter. You need to have teams who are at the 8 seed who are fighting to keep themselves into that 8 seed. I understand why, like, every now and again you're going to have years where the 9 seed and the 8 seed are separated by a game. That's good for basketball. That's good for professional sports. Have a team who's clawing and fighting and is almost quite there. And then they're a story for next year. Man, are they going to get over that hump and get into the playoffs this year? The play-in, objectively, just the same way it's been in the NFL. You don't need the 7 seed. You don't need the 9 and 10 seed included. It's objectively, inclusion has been a failure for both leagues. Let's talk something really quick. We're going to get a lot of playoff talk in this week, obviously. I'm excited for the playoffs. Something that I realized, and apologies, I haven't been live the first 2 days this week. So it was the 10-year anniversary of the late, great Kobe Bryant's final regular season game. And this is something that I think the NBA is, and Kobe's one of the most popular players ever, and so it's kind of unfair when you use him versus pretty much anybody else. But this is something that I feel like the NBA is missing. These guys who, it's not about the box score, it's not about the stats. The moments just clearly, like, the moments create themselves. Kobe had 60 points in his final NBA game. It's one of the most fakest 60-point games in NBA history, with all due respect. The Jazz weren't really playing defense. Everybody was there to see Kobe just one last time. All the celebrities were out. It was a great moment, not necessarily a great game. And we all loved it. So much so, it dwarfed the numbers that night of the Golden State Warriors going for an NBA record 73 wins. It was Kobe's last game. The excitement that he brought, the energy levels that were there, that entire game, again, he took a bunch of shots, scored a bunch of points. Nobody was playing defense. It was there for the moment. Think about when, a few weeks ago, everybody losing their mind when Bam Adebayo scored 83 points. Do you know the reaction if Kobe had scored 83 in his final game? It would have been celebrated. It would have been loved. The moment would have been there. The NBA, when it comes to being able to create moments, it has always been star reliant. And when you have certain stars, guys who can create a moment with or without a franchise, with or without a certain narrative, they are the narrative, they are the story. Guys who can be a part of, who can create something like that, and nobody bats an eye. Again, his 60 points, final game, most ever in somebody's final game of their career. The Jazz weren't playing defense. It wasn't some ultra competitive space. It was one of the greatest players ever, a great moment, his final game. He overshadowed a team going for an actual NBA record that was had far more significance to that season than the Lakers did. The Lakers were in the playoffs or way under 500. Although who knows, they might have been now I can't think about it. Were they a 9 or 10 seed? They might have been a play-in team. Like those moments, and that's what made Kobe so special. Was it was more than a box score. It was more than stats. He was a moment creator. He was an experience. And so when you get these people, and we're going to get into this, and why would he say that later? When he gets these people who are just so big on, you know, reading off a box score, basically watching the NBA through spreadsheets. Sometimes you just watch games like that, and you're like, oh yeah, this is why we watch sports. This is why we love sports. When you watch those moments, rest in peace to a legend. Again, Monday was 10 years ago, the 13th of Kobe Bryant's final game. A lot more to talk about. We're going to take a quick break here. A lot more to talk about. This is HardFoul Radio. Back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Man, baseball is thriving right now. Baseball, the numbers, kicking ass, taking names. I want to talk about this really quick too. Baseball, we got a couple things we're going to talk about baseball today. And that's crazy that we're talking about baseball. Like the NFL draft is coming up, the NBA playoffs are here, and baseball has two really big storylines. I want to get to this first one here. The Denver Broncos ownership, the Walton Penner Group, has purchased 40% of the Colorado Rockies and have become the largest minority owner in the Rockies, right? So I'm blanking on his name. I apologize. The Rockies' original owner is still the majority controller, but that's got great potential to change. Plus, the Penner Walton Group funding into them erased their debt overnight. So all the debt the Colorado Rockies had, which was, and this is kind of bullshit. These are all billionaires. They don't really need to hold this. But it eliminated all their debt, and the Rockies are now a stabilized franchise because of this, which did have an impact on the roster construction. It did prohibit them from doing certain things to certain levels. Again, I'm not trying to give billionaires who are in charge of sports teams any kind of extra credit here. That is not the point. The point is, this is good for baseball because whether you get a salary cap or not, and I've always gone back and forth on the salary cap. I'm not sure what it's actually going to mean for the sport. I'm not sure what it's actually going to be able to. I'm just not sure if it's actually going to hit. So I've stayed away from a lot of salary cap discussions. You want this if you're a baseball fan. You want more really extremely wealthy people, and I get it, Walmart is kind of at the top of the list, to invest in teams like this. Because this is what the Dodgers did. The Dodgers were on a run of so-so, and they were on a run of just being an average team. They had good players like, the Matt Kemp, Andre Ethier years, Chad Billingsley. Like, they had guys. Clayton Kershaw obviously was there for was there for multiple decades. He was great. But they turned into a dynasty superpower when the ownership group they currently have invested in them and started putting in so much money that everybody now thinks they're cheating and everyone wants to change the rules. The Rockies now have, by definition, the richest ownership group in sports. Well, in baseball, sorry. The Broncos ownership group, because of the other people invested in the Walton Penner Group, are still more, but you get the point. This is what you want as a baseball fan. You want more extremely wealthy people investing into the sport. Because now, if you're the Colorado Rockies, who are, yes, it's very early, and it's baseball, so it's super early. You want teams, and you want, like the Rockies now, who are off to a decent start, now have an actual future. Because they're going to be one of those teams that, like the Mets when Steve Cohen bought them, and he has all the money and is able to that's why the Mets can have Lindor, Soto, Edwin Diaz. I know he just left, but you can pay these guys these super contracts, and you can turn your team around overnight essentially, because you can literally fix all your problems with money. And the Rockies are now going to be able to fix all the problems with money. The Chris Bryant contract. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to give billionaires any kind of credit or any kind of, oh no, poor pity me. They're billionaires and they decided to buy a sports team, which is one of the most high-end luxury things you can do. So this is by no means look at them, look how noble. No. This is billionaire investing in team. Now, the Chris Bryant contract that they were struggling because he wasn't getting production. You can go get another third baseman. You can go get another player. You can go get another outfield. I know he switched to outfield. You can go get an outfield. You can go buy another player, because now your ownership group has this huge, huge, huge influx of money, and they're going to be able to do essentially whatever they want with this huge influx of money. This is good for the sport. And you know why the Walton Penner Group was willing to invest in this? Because baseball is thriving. The what the Dodgers ownership group did that was huge was they invested in the Dodgers when baseball was at kind of a down point. Because the problem with what happened with baseball, when baseball was struggling to keep viewers, when baseball was struggling to beat out hockey in terms of the four major sports, in terms of audience and retention, nobody was trying to invest in baseball outside of really diehard fans. Steve Cohen was a diehard fan, and that's why he wanted to get involved with the Mets. But now, we've been talking about this. ABS is working. Baseball might already have the best review system in sports. The pitch clock, it worked. The lack of the taking away the defensive shift, it worked. All these things that are improving baseball's attendance, revenue, its numbers, the eyes on it. Now you're going to get these billionaires who want to throw their money around, and they're going to start investing in teams. You want every team to have a Walton Penner group behind them, because that's how you actually balance out the sport with no salary cap. Yeah, you're still going to get some guys who are like, if they want to specifically live in California, they're still going to favor the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're still going to favor going to the Padres. But money talks, man. And you're going to get guys who are like, yeah, what I take, especially now the Dodgers have introduced this Kyle Tucker contract where it's like, hey, we're going to pay you so much money, but it's 2 or 3 years because we're not going to do the deferred thing. Because not everybody wants the deferred contracts, by the way. And some of that is a tax thing with LA, and you're trying to avoid that. If you are a guy who can make, if you're going to be a player who's available to make $500-600 million, like, I don't know, let's just throw out a name, Gunnar Henderson. And the Rockies now have all this huge influx of money, and they can pay you these mega contracts. Oh, yeah, I'll go to Colorado. Yeah. It's on the West Coast. Yes, it snows in Denver. Yes, the weather's not LA equivalent, but you're close enough to the coast where if you want to go to, you can go to LA whenever you want. It's a 2-hour plane ride. So this is great for the sport. And it's the closest thing now the Dodgers have had to a true rival. The Walton Penner Group getting involved with the Colorado Rockies means they are now, it's them, it's the Dodgers, it's Steve Cohen and the Mets. It's great for baseball. Let's move on to one of my favorite segments. Why would he say that? I know I'm about a week late, but this topic, it's really important, I think, to discuss. So, Carson from Nerdsesh, very popular YouTuber, very popular podcast, and Carson, I want to say this, like myself, and he's obviously great at it. He is a super sports nerd. I feel him on that. When he does these, him and Logan, they do all these little, especially like their short form content where they're naming off all these historical things, and they do a lot of by the numbers, but they do it in a way that genuinely, and I want to make sure I clarify this before I go in, a way that is different to me than when guys, quote unquote, just, when you say somebody is watching the game through a stat sheet, I don't think they do that, but he can definitely recite the game off a stat sheet. And it's a really cool experience. And if you're into that start of the nerdier side of sports, it's a cool thing to watch. I like the show. Genuinely a fan. What I think is wrong, and I've said this a bunch, when he tweets, DeMar DeRozan, if he averages 18 points a game for 105 games, he is going to pass Shaquille O'Neal and he's going to be top 10 all time in scoring. I find that truly disturbing. DeMar DeRozan responds, calls him a clown, says he lives on the internet, etc., etc. And DeMar has every right to clap back at him. And then his response basically is that, oh, well, you're not a super impactful player, and, your teams are better with you off the court than on the court. Listen, this is why it's a problem. And the people that are defending Carson, by the way, I think you are making it look worse. Because the people that defend Carson are in that similar vein of they wish they could tweet something and a player respond and that lead to views and eyes on their show or their podcast or their platform. Here's my biggest issue with the whole thing, and again, like I said, I'm a fan of his show. I'm a fan of DeMar DeRozan, also the player. what I think is the worst part of this is that he says if he just averages 18 points per game for another 105 games, do we not realize how hard that is? If you are an average human being, and guess what? I'm an average human being. Carson's an average human being. DeMar DeRozan is a professional basketball player. 18 points per game for another 105 games. Count the amount of humans in history that have done that. I want to be serious. 18 points a game for 105 games. A lot of people are going to go, well, that's not that impressive. Guys score 20 all the time. Guys score 30 all the time. It's easier to score in the league. No. No. Really think about 18 points a game, 105 games. How many guys historically have never done that? Think of number one overall picks who have never done that. Think of lottery picks who have never done that. Think of role players on championship teams who have never done that. We get so diluted because we know who the guys are. There's a reason why Kevin Durant is special. And him averaging 25 plus per game, even at this age, is something that you may never see again. Why a guy like Steph Curry, you may never see again. LeBron, you definitely will never see again. These guys who are getting into the 20s, the high 20s, even if it's low 20s, do you know why DeMar DeRozan is going to be top 10 all-time in scoring? Is because he's one of 10 guys in the history of the planet to do that. Think about it. Because we know the guys, we feel that it's okay to just compare them only to themselves, and I get it, yes, that's a part of being a professional sports, that's a part of this dynamic around, who's good, who's great, etc. And no one's saying DeMar DeRozan's a better basketball player than Shaq. DeMar DeRozan probably wouldn't even say that. Maybe he would. Who knows? NBA players and athletes in general are they do have extremely high levels of confidence. But you know why Shaq's not going to keep his top 10 all-time place? It's because Shaq, while obviously his peak is much higher than DeMar DeRozan, Shaq doesn't have near the career in terms of length of DeMar DeRozan. DeMar consistently staying healthy. DeMar consistently being a guy 18 to 24 points per game. DeMar consistently being a guy whose teams were making, now they ran into LeBron James a bunch, but consistently made the playoffs, had the chance to make playoff runs. That's why DeMar DeRozan is going to be top 10 all the time. It's not disturbing. It's not, whether you want to say it's a joke or not, it has nothing to do with, oh, I can't believe it. DeMar DeRozan is going to be top 10 all time in scoring because he deserves it. DeMar DeRozan is going to be top 10 all time in scoring because he is put in the work. He has scored the points. And when we get too caught up in the numbers behind something, which again, I love looking at the numbers. Again, I like their show. Numbers can provide context and numbers can give you part of the story, but they are not the whole story. Analytics are not everything. They're just not. And when we diminish, again, 18 points, 105 games, how many people ever have done that? DeMar is going to have scored over 25,000 plus points. Well, I forget what number Shaq's at. How many people have ever done that? The answer is 10, and DeMar's joining him, and he'll push himself into the top 10 all-time in scoring. And this is why NBA players, and I say this all the time, this is why this segment I think is important. NBA players are looking at you going, it's not that they don't want to like people who talk on microphones, but it's they know anybody can do this. Anybody can sit down, get a camera, get a microphone, start talking, saying things. We all can't go play in the NBA. So when you say something like that, you are on the wrong side of what is plausible. You're on the wrong side of what is possible. You're on the wrong side of what is realistic. This is realistic for almost anybody. What DeMar DeRozan doing is only realistic for 0.1% of people walking the planet. And nobody goes, wow, Because think about this. And you would call DeMar DeRozan a dick. You'd call him awful names if he said this. Wow, Carson and Logan are out of 1 million. I don't know what their subscriber count is. They're about to have 1 million subscribers. I find that deeply disturbing. Because players can't clap back all the time, and when you have a bad show, a bad podcast, a bad video, and trust me, I got them. I got them. But we can sit there and clap it. He has a bad game, a bad career, a bad week, a bad stretch. I find that disturbing, joke or not. And Carson made a big deal. Like, what if I used words different than disturbing? The words disturbing doesn't matter that much. It's that you took something 18 points, and I'm using the low end compared to what a lot of people would say. 18 points per game, 105. Podcasters ever would say, oh, yeah, it's just a good player. He's okay. He's nothing special. No, 18 points on 105 games is special. 1% of people on the planet can do it. And most of the people with podcast mics, you aren't a part of that 1%. Why would he say that, man? Quick break, going back. This is HardFoul Radio. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. We are gonna have it be slightly different because we have an audio issue that I'm not able to correct in real time. So the full episode is going to release. Will is going to be joining us for that full episode, but that you'll have to catch for the audio. All the videos we post on YouTube as normally. Um, so I want to get to this before. So we're pretty much going to be closing out the live portion here at 6. So the Tampa Bay Rays, and everybody knows my affiliation with them and how much I just appreciate that franchise and love that franchise and how creative I think they've been with a lot of things. So much to the point that a lot of the rule changes, I feel bad because the Rays figured out, like the Rays made the defensive shift popularized. And some of that's because, again, they had to do stuff because they didn't have a ton of money. And so they've always had to play baseball differently. The Rays have basically given out 3 big contracts in their life. Evan Longoria got a big contract. That obviously worked. He's the greatest player in franchise history. Unfortunately, Wander Franco got a contract. Well, he didn't work out that well. And I'm missing one. But, sorry. Pat Burrell got a big contract as a free agent post the 2009 season. So they don't give out a bunch of money. Now, that should change. They've got new ownership. Again, they're probably going to get a new stadium, and they just rebuilt Tropicana. They're going to be in a great position, though. Again, similar to how I talked about the Rockies, with new ownership, new money, and we'll see what happens with the salary cap. But they're going to benefit. The Rockies benefit if there's no salary cap. The Rays will benefit if we get a salary cap. And that's because the Rays are in position right now between their pitching staff, which they've always been great at producing, they've always been great at developing guys, but now their offense and Chandler Simpson, Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda, you have 3 young established hitters who have the potential to be great for years to come. Chandler Simpson's the fastest guy in baseball. He's batting over 350, stealing bases left and right. He's going first to third on everything. Junior Caminero hit 40 home runs last year, fastest bat speed in the majors. Like, there is a lot of talent and a lot to be extremely, extremely proud and extremely excited for if you're Tampa Bay. And again, they're on the other end of this spectrum. The Rockies benefit because of the huge increase in ownership in terms of net worth. If there's no salary cap, they could go to the moon. The Rays benefit if you have to have a salary cap because they're going to be able to sign all these guys. And a baseball salary cap is not going to be like the NBA or Major League or the NFL because it's going to take a while to transition. It is not going to be some super hard cap where guys are paying out crazy for luxury tax, mainly because you're going to have to grandfather a bunch of contracts. Like the Dodgers, a lot of their team is going to be grandfathered in. And so you're going to have to play all these funny money games in order to figure out how are we going to get to the point that we want to be. They're going to have a soft cap for probably the better part of a decade, just considering how long baseball contracts go. Again, the Mariners and Pirates just signed prospects, guys who had not played Major League Baseball games yet, to 9 and 10 year, $100+ million deals. How do you incorporate that into to a salary cap? It's going to be a bunch of soft cap. It's going to be something that they're going to want. One of the first things they're going to want to do in baseball, if they want to quote unquote, if the salary cap is meant to stop what the Dodgers are doing and what the Rockies have a chance to do, is what you can sign for versus what another team can pay you. So like what you can sign for with the team that drafted you or that you currently play for versus what another team can sign you for in free agency is going to be different. And it's going to be drastically different. So if you could sign a 10-year, I'm just going to use random, I'm going to use even numbers here to be simple. Obviously, guys are signing for more than this. But if I could get 10 years, $150 million, or let's say $200 million from like Paul Skeens, 10 years, $200 million from the Pirates, or if I go somewhere else, I can only sign for 7 years, and let's say instead of $20 million a year or $30 million a year, I can only sign for 20 over here. That's going to be huge because over the life of that contract, that's $70-80 million. And because of the length of it, am I going to be able to sign another one? They're also probably, which won't exist anymore most likely, is they're going to get rid of the 10-year deals. I don't see a world where you can have a salary cap and guys doing 10+ year contracts. And part of that too is because the players are going to fight against that kind of control. Because now, if I'm Paul Skeens, let's say the max I can make $60 million. I don't want to sign for 10 years $600 million, even if I could, because now in 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, I'm not going to be able to fight my way out of it the same way I could now. Versus, I'd rather sign for 3 or 4 years, give me the 180, $240 million, and with that money, I can, excuse me, I'm now going to put myself in a better position long term financially. So again, the salary cap is going to be weird, but the Rays have a lot of young talent. They've always developed talent really well. Pitching wise, they've always been able to develop pitchers, but they've always kind of struggled with offense. And a lot of their premier offensive guys that they do get end up going somewhere else, and they get paid somewhere else. Like the Rays at one point were funding like all stars everywhere else. Remember, the Rays organization does things so well that when the Dodgers got all this money and they were like, we need baseball people to be in charge, because they to their credit, they didn't go and say, oh, we know what we're doing, we're all a bunch of billionaires who got all this money. No, they said, we need baseball people in charge. What's the first place they went to? Tampa Bay. Andrew Friedman, who was the best executive in the sport, but was capped at what he could make because of the franchise he was with. And when it was finally time to make a decision to go, okay, we need to go somewhere else, he goes to the Dodgers. So I think it goes actually. So I think it goes Cubs then Dodgers. But it's the Rays, great franchise in terms of how they're able to do stuff. And again, the salary cap will benefit them because they do not have the financial freedom and flexibility that some of these other premier franchises have. Again, different than what the Rockies have. The Rockies want no salary cap. They want to be able to flex Walmart money. They want to be able to take advantage of it. And yeah. Again, I am happy for the NBA playoffs about to start. We're going to be breaking down more matchups. We obviously got 2 more play-in games to decide tonight, which is going to give us our actual 1-8 in both conferences. And we'll start tomorrow's show off talking about all these different playoff matchups, going through all the different scenarios. I stand on what I said to start the show. I think the play-in game has been objectively a bad process. The same way I think the 7th seed in the NFL has not been good for the NFL. It's just giving teams, inclusion is not needed in professional sports. It's just not. So, again, slight audio issues to start today, and we're not going to be able to have Will on in real time, but will be a part of the actual episode. You'll see him on YouTube. So, with that being said, appreciate you guys as always. This is HardFoul.